Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we are going to check out another of the brand new Mattel Jurassic World Dino Escape figures, and this is the second of the newest basic figures from the Mattel line. As we have recently reviewed the Scorpius Rex, we are now going to take a look at the Parasaurolophus, as you can see, and as we pan up here you can see the figure kind of hiding within that little window right there, but you just can't really see much of the actual figure. But you can again see, as far as the box art goes, we have a Jurassic World logo and a Dino Escape logo, and then if we turn it around we actually have an image of Rexy here on the side, and then the Parasaurolophus right here on the opposing side, as well as an image of how to connect the tail. And then on the back we have an image showing off the other figures that are in this wave of basics, which would be the Scorpius Rex, who we have reviewed, and we also have the Proceratosaurus, Spinosaurus, Velociraptor Blue, Dilophosaurus, and Pteranodon, which we have already reviewed all of those in the past as well. So let's break this out of its box and take a look at it. So here is our basic Parasaurolophus, looking really quite cool. But yet again, we have another issue straight away that you could probably make out, and that's the fact that that tail is really short. And I don't know what it is about the basic figures, because of course the Mattel figures always seem to have shorter than, average tails, but the tails of these new basic figures for some reason just look even shorter than they usually do. I don't know what it is. With the Scorpius Rex, I felt like his tail was definitely shorter than it should be, and now this Parasaurolophus, the tail definitely looks oddly short. Doesn't look quite as awkward on the more mainline figures, but it definitely looks a little iffy on this one here. But the figure as a whole looks pretty fun, so let's go ahead and jump straight to a closer look right now. So starting at the head sculpt of the Parasaurolophus, you can definitely see that it has some really nice detailing to it, like an absolutely beautiful, very, very nicely sculpted out head sculpt. As far as like the skin texture and everything, it looks really nice. You can see the beak is beautifully sculpted as well, sporting some very nice detail in that area also. Unfortunately, we don't have any paint for the lower part of the beak, but the upper part looks really nice. The nostrils are very nicely sculpted out up here on the snout, like they look really good. And the detailing as we run along the crest also looks fantastic, like really beautifully textured. Some of the nicest texturing I think I may have ever seen on a Mattel figure. The detail is just really vibrant on this Parasaurolophus. You can see that we have a nice brown coloration for the crest all the way down here onto the beak on the upper part of the mouth. And we also have some eye paint with a nice dark brown. I would have preferred like a lighter color and then maybe a black pupil, but it's a basic figure. We get what we get, I guess, and it's not really that great as far as that goes. It does seem to have a glossy look to it, which is at least a little bit of a plus. As we move down the course of the neck region, you can see some really nice brown taking over here in the back of the neck, but also some beautiful creasing and really nice skin texture throughout that neck region. You can also see the throat kind of here on the underside of the neck. As we move down into the body, you can see how this very dark brown stripe runs down, and then we get a second very similar paint scheme to a Jurassic Park style Parasaurolophus, which looks really cool. The texturing to the skin continues to look really nice. As we move down into the arm, you can see some beautiful muscle definition as well as some really nice skin texture there as well. The hands look great, but unfortunately, first of all, my camera doesn't want to focus on it, but unfortunately we don't have any nail paint or anything. But again, that's something we don't get on the mainline figures. Of course, we're not going to get that on a basic figure. More gorgeous texturing and everything here to the skin and the stomach region. You have a little bit of girth here in the stomach, but just like the Scorpius Rex, the figure is ridiculously thin, and that is definitely one of the biggest downsides, I would say, to these new basic figures, is that they are really, really thin, and I don't know why. I'm not sure what happened as far as that goes, but they definitely are just disgustingly thin, almost looking like they've been run over by a steamroller. Both the Scorpius and now this Parasaurolophus have that same appearance, so they look good from the side, but really bad from the top. The detailing of the figure is actually really nice as far as like cracks and crevices in the skin. Like I almost feel like the figure is screaming for a nice dark wash to be applied. You have a very bumpy scaling as you get close to the top of the spinal column here of the Parasaurolophus. You can see some more decent looking muscle definition in the thigh, as well as some really nice skin texture in that area as well. You can pick out the kneecap right there, as well as the calf muscle. Moving down into the foot also looks quite nice. We have some scoots down the course of the toes, as well as some, again, nicely sculpted nails, but no nail paint. They do kind of appear to have a glossy look to them, but that's really about it. So it sort of insinuates like nail paint, but without actually having any nail paint. And then we run back up here into the tail. You can see lots of really nice creasing and beautiful texturing to the skin right there. As we move out into that very short tail of the Parasaurolophus, you can see that as far as what we do get for the tail, it does look really quite nice. It's just exceptionally short. And then as far as the model goes on the opposing side, there's really not too much difference. The only real big difference over here compared to the previous side would be the fact that on that side, this hand right here is picking up off of the ground, whereas on this side it's planted, so it is in a quadrupedal position walking along. But that's really about the only difference, other than the legs are in a slightly different position. As you can see, the left leg is a little bit forward, the right leg is trailing. So you can see a really nice bend here in the hand, of course, as that hand is planted, holding up the entire front half of the dinosaur. Again, the detailing looks fantastic, beautifully sculpted out hand and really nicely sculpted out nails without any type of nail paint. But you can see just how nice the structure of the arm is, even sporting like the elbow right there, as well as some really nice muscle definition. And then again, the detailing otherwise looks pretty much the same. The only difference over here, like I said, was the leg is a little bit more further forward, and then we run out into that really short tail. But really nice figure, again, for being a basic figure, but it does have that really, really weird looking thin-like appearance that I'm not a big fan of, but still pretty decent other than that. One other area that I'm starting to notice is a little bit of a downside as I've been, reviewing the figure are the legs. These rear legs are really loose, like almost similar to the Spinosaurus, how they were really, really loose. You can see how they shake. So it does give the entire figure an overall very cheap feeling, which is, again, a bit of a downside. And also just generally the lack of size, of body mass in the figure also furthers that kind of cheap feeling on the newer basic figures. So I feel like the quality of this line has decreased over time, because initially the basics were really beautiful, I thought. Again, almost like model-like versions of a lot of the Mattel figures that were released, because they don't sport as much articulation, and they were still really beautiful sculpts. But this one and the Scorpius Rex definitely have a little bit of a decline in quality compared to the previous versions of the basic figures. But as far as articulation and stuff goes, we really only have articulation in the arms, the legs, and the tail. The tail can move around, not swivel or anything, but it can still move around, up, down, left, right, all of that fun stuff. But that's it. Again, being basic, that's pretty much all you would really expect, if even that much. So it is nice to have some articulation. As far as a size goes, for a length, you are looking at about 12 3/4 inches, or about 32.5 centimeters. And then for a height, obviously the head's the highest point, we're looking at just shy of 5 inches, or around the 12.5, about 12.5 centimeters, maybe a little bit closer to 13 centimeters, but not by much. As far as a size comparison goes, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, and Robert Muldoon in comparison to our basic Parasaurolophus, showing you that the figure absolutely sports a very large and impressive size. Definitely one good aspect of the basic figures is that they are usually quite large, and you can definitely see that this Parasaurolophus is certainly that, but still not crazy amazing, but definitely sports a pretty decent size overall. And then for a second comparison, here is the new basic Scorpius Rex against the new basic Parasaurolophus, showing you that the Scorpius certainly has a larger size overall, but also helping to give you an idea, again, how they look in comparison to each other. Really cool looking figures, just definitely not the best Mattel has to offer. So this brand new basic Parasaurolophus from Mattel for the Jurassic World Dino Escape line is really quite cool, just nothing amazing. It is really nice to see a herbivore in the basic line though, so that is a huge plus, and I really do hope that we get more herbivores in the future. And in general, if Mattel is feeling generous, it would be nice to get a Corythosaurus at some point. That would definitely be a great idea on their part, but again, this Parasaurolophus looks really nice sculpt-wise. Like, it's one of the nicest sculpted Parasaurolophus as far as the fine detail goes that I think I've seen from Mattel, especially when it comes to, like, the beak and then up into the crest. That detail is extraordinarily nicely done and super vibrant on the figure. The detailing, however, as far as the vibrant appearance goes, does not cease, as the entire model has a really gorgeous sculpt when it comes to like the skin texture and the creasing in the skin and everything. Like, it's beautiful throughout the course of the entire figure. The overall appearance is nothing crazy or flashy. It's just kind of walking along, kind of like that standard Parasaurolophus pose that Mattel tends to give us. So that's not anything amazing or brand new. It just looks, pretty much like a standard walking Parasaurolophus. The paintwork, again, being a basic figure, is exactly that. It's really quite basic. We only have a few different variations of browns and kind of like a reddish brown that runs along the back of the neck. And that's really about it, aside from that one area of brown for the eyes. That's just about all we get when it comes to coloration. Then, of course, like the yellowish color of the primary body. But nothing super flashy, and in fact, I don't even see speckles or anything on this figure, so not much paint application to be found on this basic Parasaurolophus. The real downsides, I would say, for the figure, I'm not a big fan of the tail. I think the tail looks really awkward. Of course, the Mattel figures always have short tails, but this one just looks really, really weird to me. I think it might be just the way that the overall body area and then the tail kind of transition into each other. I think the thickness of the area where the body connects to the tail is just a little too thick on the body side and then too thin on the tail side. It could have looked nicer if they had thickened the tail up a little bit before tapering it off to the tip. But overall, it still looks a little strange, and the thinness of the body is definitely a big downside. And in fact, again, I'm not a big fan of that at all with neither this nor the Scorpius Rex that they have recently released in the basic line. Both of them have been way too thin and almost look like they've been run over by a steamroller. They're that oddly thin, which of course these things also, taking into consideration the fact that the legs are really wobbly on this, give the entire figure a very cheap feel. But being a basic figure, again, a really decently sized figure that retails for $10, it's understandable that it would be cheap because it is a cheap figure, but at the same time it just feels a little bit lower in quality than the older basic figures. This one, however, is still a little tricky to get a hold of. I actually ended up purchasing this from Toy Wiz because they had it on eBay for like $18 plus shipping, and it retails for $10, and considering I don't get the basic figures in my area at all anymore, I was okay with spending a few extra dollars on it. I'm not a big fan of Toy Wiz because I feel like they just consistently overcharge people for almost everything on their website, so I can't absolutely recommend picking it up from them. But at the same time, if you're kind of like me, you really wanted to get a hold of it and you're a little desperate, I will include the link to Toy Wiz from eBay here in the description where you can head on over there and purchase this for yourself, or you can just kind of wait it out and hopefully score it for retail at some point. One way or another, it's definitely a pretty fun Parasaurolophus, so make sure if you are interested in picking it up, you follow that link to eBay and pick one up, or wait again for the retail price to potentially pop up on Amazon. But before you go doing all that, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.